Hi, this is Alex from phpacademy.org, back with another PHP video tutorial. Now in this tutorial I'm going to be briefly introducing you to what object-oriented programming is, and also why it's more useful to use. In our case we're going to be programming in object-oriented programming in PHP. So object-oriented programming, also noted as OOP, you've probably seen it more commonly written as OOP, is a different way to program within many languages, not just PHP. We've got PHP in languages such as C#, Java, and just to name a couple. So why do we use object-oriented programming? Now, usually in a PHP script you would use a procedural way of coding, so you would write your code, maybe include a couple of functions from top to bottom. Now object-oriented programming takes use of objects in your program, so you will have different objects inside of your program which will allow you to access them in different ways. So if you think about object-oriented programming, if you think of your whole application, or your code if you like, as a whole object, you have smaller objects inside that you can deal with. For example, you may have a bank account, we may have a class, but we'll go into classes later, so if you don't know what a class is, just follow along the example. You may have a class called bank account, and inside this bank account this will be relative to, say, a specific user. You might have a balance and some more information. Now what happens if you want to automatically update this balance by calling this object and telling it what to do? Now inside of this object you will have, or this class if you like, you will have different methods. So the methods will update things. So we could have a method called update balance, or more realistically, deposit funds. And then we could have, say, withdraw funds. Say the deposit funds will take in a parameter, let's say 10, and we'll add 10 to our balance. So this is a bit of a bad way of representing it, but when you get into your object-oriented programming, and you start to write the code, you'll start to understand how actually easy it is once you've got around the basics. So why do we learn object-oriented programming? Well, for the reasons I've already described. Your code is a lot better organized. Object-oriented programming has been part of PHP since PHP 5 was released. I'm not sure when that was. I think it was a good sort of 5 odd years ago. And not a lot of people do actually use it. They still use the same procedural code, which I do. I mean, I do a lot of the time as well. However, it's a good practice to get into learn object-oriented PHP and start to get into this practice, because you're going to reap the many benefits from this as you can. So like I said, object-oriented programming is a better way to program in general. You have just part of the structure of it. Like I said, you have classes. You'll then have properties of each class. So this could be, say, like I said with the bank account example earlier, the property could be the balance. And then you have methods. So the methods are things that do things. So methods are essentially functions. Properties are essentially variables that you would store data in. However, we have lots of other aspects of object-oriented programming, that we can look at in order to work out how it's useful. For example, we have things like the extends keyword. You can see that my text editor has highlighted it blue. Extends creates a new class, but adapts and takes properties and methods from another class. So we can have a main top level class, but then we can have classes underneath it that extend data from that class. So we can take things like the bank account example, and we can extend another class with different information but still using the balance from there. So you'll find that lots of complex code written properly will use object-oriented programming. I've just shown you a few examples. However, we're going to crack on in the next examples of creating the code rather than talking about it. So I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it, but we're going to get straight in and do everything by example so you can understand where and when OOP is useful.